just static selected. I'm a dickhead when it comes to hearing artists I've never heard of before. But when I heard him, and I'm the biggest critic of hip-hop got, I was like, dude's dope, and we started working together.
Miller on the run up, and Williams against behind Austin, and reverse lay in and a trailer fouling. Beautiful play by Reggie Williams. It's Williams catches you. 4 for 4 for Reggie Williams.
Link out to Reggie Williams with authority.
Yo, welcome to Synonymous.
What's up? Welcome back. Synonymous Podcast, episode 10.
Yes, sir.
We had a couple weeks off, but now we're back. Me and Kane. And this week, we have a special guest with us.
Special guest.
Mr. Christopher Gandy from Midwest Legacy, financial advisor, has taken the time to join us today. And, give us some insight about education as far as finances go, how athletes and entertainers lose money, deals and things like that, and talk about music and just have a good time. So, Chris, we'd like to welcome you in, and thank you for joining us today.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thanks for
What
coming
up,
on.
fellas? What up, fellas? What y'all over there doing?
What's up, man?
Huh?
We just hanging out, laying up.
Okay.
Hey, man.
I'm interested in getting it in with y'all.
No,
I want to be like y'all one day.
social distancing.
Okay.
And quarantining. So we can't. This is the best we can do. The whole world is doing this right now.
That's right.
So it's all right. So, Chris, we like to, tell us a little bit about yourself. We want to dive into getting to know you, letting our fans and the people know you, and and just carry on from there.
Okay. Cool. Well, so back in the day, right? Back in the day.
It's like mid-90s?
Yeah, man, mid-90s. So back in 1990, let's call it 1990, I happened to be fairly decent at the game of hoops, right? And got an opportunity to go play in the Nike All-American camp, ABCD. You might remember that camp.
Yep. Oh, wow, yeah.
That camp was over in Indianapolis. That camp was a nice camp.
That's big time.
And had an opportunity to continue my dream playing in college in the Big Ten.
Okay.
Right? The Big Ten's a good conference.
That's decent. It's not
one of the power conferences, right? You're right. We did a little something in the Big Ten. But I was in the Big Ten between 92 and 97. Redshirted my first year and then got an opportunity to play in Chicago in 97. 96, 97 was the season. Finished up there and then spent a little bit of time in San Antonio with the Clip Show. Okay. When the Clippers were the practice team.
So you're old. So is this like the San Diego Clippers, or are we in Los Angeles shit?
I'm grown. That's what you're trying to say. I'm grown.
My bad.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get a little older. You season. That's what happens. You season meat. That's how it happens. You let it sit for a while. Okay. Let it marinate. That's what grown folks do over there, right? So we had an opportunity to bounce around the league for a little bit and then play overseas for a couple of years until I had an injury that left me having to make a decision about playing the game. And like most athletes don't stop playing the game because they don't like playing the game or because they're not capable of playing the game. Most of them stop playing because of some sort of injury of some sort, and they just can't do it the way they used to be able to do it. That's typically the way it works. So I left the game and people were like, don't you want to come back and be a part of the game? And I looked at the coaching ranks and realized that, it just wasn't for me, right? My patience level wasn't that high. I wanted to get after it, full court press in my career. So I jumped in the idea of helping players figure it out. One of the things I realized is that my agent never told me really what I should and shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
He just basically was like, go make this money. Right?
Wait. Before you dive into that, I want to know a couple things before you go that far. At this Nike at this ABCD camp, now, who are some of the players that were there with you?
I'm the same age as Jason Kidd.
Oh, okay.
Stackhouse.
Okay.
Let's see who else was in our group. You don't know Felipe Lopez?
Felipe, he was the #1 player in the country.
Come on, man. You remember Felipe?
Yes.
That boy had game.
He went to St. John's.
Yes, sir.
Come on,
yes,
man.
sir.
Drafted number 24 to the Spurs.
They said Felipe was the next Jordan.
Yes, I remember that.
He was nice, right? So Felipe, let's see, who else was in our class? John Wallace.
Oh, wow. Syracuse.
Yeah.
I got hops. I got hops and he got game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else was in our group. So Jason Kidd was probably the most memorable guy who was in our group that you may remember. Dante Calabria.
Ooh, North Carolina.
He was a shooter.
Come on, man.
Right?
You're talking to a basketball head.
You remember them cats, right? So that was kind of the crew that was bouncing around when I was coming out.
Okay.
When I was playing.
So you left there and you went to college, Big Ten. Let us what Big Ten school we talking about?
What, the only one that matters, University of Illinois, baby, the orange and blue. I brought it down for you in case you got confused, partner.
Let me see the back. Oh, okay, it's official.
It's official.
Okay.
Hey, Reg, there's a difference when you know. My man Kane, check this out. When you know that it's official, it's made specifically for the team, partner. Look, hey.
Okay.
That's how you know. Reggie know. This is official.
Yeah, that's real.
I'm gonna have to ask you for that. I might need that.
Yeah, but I got that one in the away. So
when you went to the Big Ten, you redshirted your first year. Where did Illinois stand in the Big Ten at that time, and give us a little rundown of the culture of the Big Ten at that time and some of the notable guys you played against then.
Okay, so the Big Ten was a banger. It was always the biggest, strongest guys. You know, the Big Ten was not made for guys that were frail.
Right, because you got the Midwest kids, blue collar,
right.
hardworking.
You got the corn-eating dudes up north. You know, you got some teams that you would say probably didn't play by the rules. I ain't gonna say no names, but I'm gonna say the Fab Five just somehow magically ended up in Michigan doing their thing all at the same time. I'm not saying that they didn't break the rules. I'm just saying they towed it probably a little. When we pulled up at Chrysler Arena, is there a reason why your 5 starters have their own parking spots and they all have Benzes? I'm just curious. But it's all good, you know? It's all good.
Wow.
Man.
You know, they just did a documentary on HBO called The Scheme that centers around
they better not ever do it.
The scandal in Louisville, LSU, and Arizona that recently happened. So that,
right.
they got Christian Dawkins. So if you ever
we can get into that, man. It's treacherous. I mean, college sports, if you ask me, 90% of college sports, literally 90% of college sports at the very high level, is just who gets caught doing what they're doing, right? And how are they doing it, right? You know, you look at, we can get into history, right? We look at why, you look at the history and you ask yourself a question like, how did that happen? So is there a reason why? How did Derrick Rose? Just curious. How do you end up at Memphis? How did that team at Memphis end up at Memphis when he was the #1 guy coming out of high school? With
John Calipari.
With John Calipari.
He's a good coach.
They wasn't going because of coach, man.
He's a great
recruiter. To Memphis, bro. Ain't nothing in Memphis other than barbecue. Right?
And Beale Street.
Right, man. Come on, man. Stop, right?
Blues.
You know, you
good
look
good music.
You look at the way, and I respect, we played Duke at Duke. We beat them. We broke a 99-game winning streak over at Duke. That was the year they had Chris Collins, Wojciechowski.
Wojo! I heard you set a mean screen on Wojo.
Yeah, I hit him. But hit him with a little something, man.
We're gonna have to find that.
Yeah, it was a crusher, right?
Okay.
You know, when you're going through picks, they tell you to call it out.
Yeah, call out the screen.
Yeah,
so he cuts out his big man.
Yeah, his boy left him out there on an island. He's trying to get through, and he was a little hustle dude too, man. I had to get him with a little bit.
Okay, throw a little shoulder in there
when he came through, but it's all good. He got up through a couple of choice words. You know how that is.
Yeah.
But you look at the way programs are built, man, and the way programs are built now is the game itself is one thing. The business of the game is something different. I mean, if you look at some coaches will say we've turned the other way because of what's happening, but they got to clean the game up. I mean, the amateur game has to be cleaned up because you cannot allow for teams like Duke, like teams like certain teams, 4 or 5 teams every single year to just replenish 5, 6, 7 superstar players where they put 10 guys or 5 guys, 8. I mean, they even have bench guys. They even have bench guys that essentially
would be starters,
are lotteries, lottery picks, right? I mean, you're playing against some teams. You know, where's the parity, right? In sports, where they can continue to replenish that, and then so you take that out. Okay, so let's take out the Dukes of the world, and then what happens is you have coaches, and these are coaches that I'm not saying they break the rules, but I'm saying I think they bend them in a way where they just ignore what's happening around the program, and you have kids go there, and they're not going there for their education. I mean, they're not going there to get an education to get ahead. Guys are going there to try to win a championship and get to the league. So, they got to kind of clean that up. I think Sonny Vaccaro started that back when I was coming up. We can get into that, Reggie, like Sonny Vaccaro, because if you didn't know Sonny Vaccaro, you wasn't playing in the Nike. You weren't playing in McDonald's.
Yeah, I know who Sonny Vaccaro is.
If Sonny Vaccaro didn't like you, it was a wrap. So you want to go back and look at some of the history of that. Go back and look at the Adidas scandal that happened with Sonny Vaccaro. I mean, it's he was basically getting paid to lay guys up at programs. Man.
Right. It's not. I mean, the whole Christian Dawkins thing with the Scheme documentary on HBO. It's not nothing new. He was just a new player in an old game.
Turning pros.
Right. It's just a pawn in the game. That's it.
It's the same as baseball. Yeah, it's like baseball. Yeah.
But now they have
baseball's farm system. Right. So the NBA is adopting the farm system.
So they've already signed 3 top 10 high school prospects to come to the G League for like $300,000 this upcoming season. So they're foregoing college, playing 1 year professional, and then next year, well, not next year, the season after, so it'll be 2021. They'll be top draft picks in the NBA, but they'll be seasoned. And to me, it's similar to taking a page out of Europe's book as far as basketball.
Right. You don't
taking
even need
these
to play
kids
high
at
school.
such a young age.
Well, yeah, that's what Christian Dawkins is doing. He's placing these kids.
And same as baseball. Yeah, it's like
same baseball. Yeah, I was gonna say baseball's farm system.
Yeah,
it's a similar type of system, right?
So the NBA is adopting the farm system.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we'll see because I think one of the things I believe and I wholeheartedly believe is the AAU program is really what's making it really difficult for a lot of things, right? Because the AAU programs have a rule book that's probably less than 20 rules, and the NCAA then regulates A, B, and C, but the AAU programs are really placing these kids now. Versus these kids really just get an option to go wherever. They're literally placing these kids.
That's
right?
That's what Christian Dawkins is doing. He's placing these kids, basically. Right. He builds a relationship with them. He talks to the coaches. Basically, whoever, this is off the documentary, what I saw. Basically, whoever is the highest bidder.
Highest paid, right? That's what I'm saying. Whoever got the most money wins, partner.
So go back to your Big Ten days.
Hold on, wait, Reggie, before you get any further, man.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you what occupation that is. The occupation you just described to me, where basically the highest bidder wins. Isn't that called pandering?
I mean, I would use another word, but
you can call it whatever you want. It's the oldest. It's the oldest occupation in the world, right? Is basically they're pimping these kids, man.
Yeah,
and so. Highest bidder wins. And so they got to figure out how to change that, how to control it, how to get some of these players, some of these guys.
Now the NCAA is allowing these kids to make money off endorsements. So they can't get paid from the college, but they can get paid from YouTube or a local sandwich shop in the college town or something to endorse. So now they can make money.
Yeah, and that's something
but
that I want to ask.
But now,
both
Reggie,
of
let me
y'all.
go back. Reggie, back in the day now, look, I want to listen to what you just said. So this is how the difference between watching sports and playing sports. So now we can have a local sandwich shop that's owned by one of the loyal alumni of a school, right, who just happens to own this sandwich shop as a write-off for some of his business expenses so he can get a deduction on his taxes. Now he's going to say, hey, you know what, Zion Williamson, we're going to give you to come to Duke. You know what, we're going to give you this, I don't know, this $50,000 sponsorship.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah. That's where we're at now.
Wow. Okay.
I
understand it.
Did you see that? It just came out when the NBA came with the NBA, the D League came with the G League select team because they've already signed 3 of the top high school prospects are foregoing college to play in the G League next year on this team, which is going to be made up of mainly top prospects and like some veterans.
Who are they playing?
They playing in the D League, the G League.
Other teams.
They playing other pros in the G. No, they playing the G League. This is the G League. This is a new team in the G League.
Where are they based out of?
They will be playing at one of the proposed locations is the Mamba Sports Academy, Kobe's gym.
I thought you were gonna say out of Virginia. I was like, you lying.
Nah, because I be trying to get my hand in that.
I was like, you lying.
Because you'll be like, call when we done with this interview, call me. Let's try to get something set up. Yeah, so they'll be playing. They are in the actual G League. They are pros now. They're getting like $300,000 this season to play in the G League.
It's crazy.
Wow. So go back. Tell us about the Big Ten. I know we were talking about it and we jumped, but we still want to know some more background how it was back then with the back.
So banger. It was a banger, league. Lots of stars, man. I mean, we played against the Fab Five. We played against Glenn Robinson. When Glenn Robinson was the nation's leading scorer and won Naismith.
Yes, sir.
We played against him. I messed around and tried, on Selection Sunday before the Big Ten had the tournament, we messed around and tried to guard him. He needed 26 points to be the nation's leading scorer. Dude dropped 57. He dropped 57. He dropped Reggie.
Crazy.
After the interview, they said, "Hi, what happened? Who was guarding him the most?" Coach came in. He said, "Who was guarding him the most?" And our assistant coach came in. He said, "Everybody in here."
57, the whole team got that.
He said, "Coach, even you got some of that."
And I was in Charlotte. When I was in Charlotte, we played New Jersey Nets, and Deron Williams gave us 57 in Charlotte, and it was like the same thing. It's like, who didn't get it? Even if you didn't get in the game, you got it. I remember he looked the ball. It was inbounding the ball one time in front of our bench. He was taking it out, and he was walking over there. He was like, watch this, guys. I'm about to score, hit a 3. Inbounds the ball, goes in, gets it, comes right back off the screen, bang. Trey Ball looks back at it, starts smiling and laughing, running right down.
Man, I forgot about him.
So, my man, Deron Williams?
Yeah.
Yes,
sir.
Alumni. I
know that clown, right? I got him on a sale right now. I hit him with a text. Make sure he knows you talking about it.
Yeah, he was official. I remember he played for Utah one time. He was coming at me full speed. Nice. I was with Golden State, and as he was coming at me, I was like, please.
Yeah, he's nice.
He hit me with something. I jumped one way, but he crossed back into me, and I was like, it all worked out for me.
Hey, can I tell y'all something? I hope we get to air this somewhere. I'm gonna send it to him.
It's gonna be aired.
Okay, cool. So Darren Williams, I just want you to remember, your boy beat you at Pig in Illinois. We was playing Pig in the gym, and I beat you, and you left. So we good. We ain't gonna play no more. I remember that, Reggie. So when I was down in Illinois after doing rehab, I was down there for a while, starting my career. And I used to go, to the facility all the time. We used to hang out with the current team or whatnot. That was the year where they had Luther.
Oh, D. Brown, Luther Head.
Right?
After Frank Williams, right?
After Frank Williams.
Yeah, all those guys coming through, right? All those guys coming through, right? It was like, man, Darren going to the league. It was like, man, Darren going to the league. Right? So I was sitting around. I was like, bro, I get you a kid. He's like, like, bro, I get you a pig. He's like, but he didn't know though, Reggie. I had a J, and he didn't really know though. He didn't really get a jumper until he got to the league. He didn't really get a. He had a knuckleball, right? So. But he was just nice. He had nice handle, good body control, nice size,
good body control,
right? And real nice handle, nice size, could control his tempo, real nice handle, nice size. But he didn't really have a J. Like you even look at his J now, but he didn't really have it. He ain't the guy you just gonna leave open. He's just gonna flame you for 40 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen. I was there when he flamed us for 50.
No. I'm saying every now and again he'll get hot. He ain't to do that every now and again. Every now and again, he'll be hot.
He's an Olympian and an All-Star.
Listen to me.
All right, you got it.
He beat him in pig. You got to listen to him.
I beat him in pig, bro. I'm telling you, I beat him in pig. And so I beat him in pig, bro. We're going to play again. So we played again. He beat me like 3 out of 4 times. That one time, we're going to play again. So we played again.
The truth, he beat me 3 out of 4.
That's just the line note. That's just the asterisk.
That's asterisk. It don't matter.
They don't need to know about that.
He beat him. It's all good.
So at Illinois, did you guys win the Big Ten at any point?
So it's all good. Nah, man. So I was saying Illinois, we were coming off probation.
Okay.
Right? So we were coming off probation my freshman year. So I was saying Illinois, we were coming off probation. That was the year where Iowa. I was coming off the year where that whole Deion Thomas scandal. The year where Iowa. So I was coming off the year back in, let's see, I think 91. They got in trouble back in 90. Back in, I think, and it was the guy out of Iowa. They got in trouble. He's coaching now. I don't think of his name. But everybody hates him because he coached at Tennessee. I don't think of his name. Looks like kind of mixed dude. But everybody hates him because he coached at Tennessee. You ain't no help. I thought you was like kind of mixed.
Coached at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl.
Bruce Pearl.
No help.
Bruce Pearl.
Okay.
Come on, Reggie. So Bruce Pearl supposedly had Deion Thomas on tape saying that he had taken money or car. Come on, Reggie. So Bruce Pearl was supposedly Illinois got dealt with. Illinois, they could never find the car. Never find the money. Never find the car, never find the money. But Deion basically, so Illinois got dealt. Illinois, they could never find the car, never find basically. Was like, no, we didn't do it. So they put him on probation for 3 years, and so I came in on probation. So we were, we only had 2 scholarships. Was like, no, we didn't do it. My freshman year, I was one of the 2. Richard Keene was the other. Came in. So probation. So the Big Ten was something else, man. I'm just thinking about Michigan at Wisconsin. We had Mike Finley and Rashard Griffith up there. The Big Ten was something else. At Wisconsin, we had Bobby Jackson. Thinking about Michigan at Wisconsin, we had Mike Sam Jacobson up there. And Rashard Griffith. They ended up making a run at the national title that year. At Wisconsin, we had Bobby Jackson. At Michigan State.
Bobby Jackson, Minnesota, not Wisconsin, Minnesota. Okay.
I
remember Bobby Sam
Michigan
Jacobson too.
Yep, at Michigan State. You had Sean Restford up there. You had
Minnesota, not Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Let me see who else was up there. They had a bunch of good players that were pretty good. There was decent Sean Restford up there, but Sean Restford would give it to you quick. Over at Purdue, you had Brad Miller, and you had Brian Cardinal.
What's your favorite
player?
Brian Cardinal. People sleep on him.
And you had Konzo Martin. You run the table. You had Konzo. Yes, he's the coach now at Missouri. And then you run the table with Glenn Robinson. You had them over there at Indiana. Yeah, and you had who's over at Indiana at the time. But I was on the tail end. My redshirt year, Damian Bailey was still there, bro. And then you run the table with Glenn Robinson. Right? You're like just giving people the business. Indiana. Over at Iowa, you had a good team at Iowa. Penn State had a pretty decent team. But I was on the tail end. My redshirt year was over there. Okay. You had good teams all around the Big Ten. Ohio State, Randy Ayers was over there coaching with Lawrence Funderburk.
I remember him. He played for Sacramento.
Jimmy Jackson.
Of course. How can you not?
Big swole shoulders. And then, Ohio State. You remember, here's one for you. With Lawrence Funderburk. Remember that cat? Ricky Dudley, tight end for the Titans.
Okay, I was like, I know that name. Okay. Is he?
No, his name Ricky Hundley.
Yeah, Ricky Dudley, bro. Here's one for you.
Ricky Dudley.
Ricky Dudley's arms as big as your legs.
He played for the Bucks,
that dude hit me. Ricky Dudley hit me with my forearm one time. For the Titans.
Yeah, I think he ended up playing for the Bucks too. That's when
Coach was like, post him up. I was like, what?
Bro. Like Antonio Gates.
Your legs,
Nah,
right?
this dude,
That dude hit me with a
his
forearm.
arms was crazy. He made Antonio Gates look like soft.
He
was cut up
like he looked like he was chiseled from
like a track star or
granite, bro.
something. Yeah.
Like Antonio
Coach was
Gates.
like, guard him. I was like, really? That's what we doing? Okay. I mean, he was 270. Tight end, 270, bro.
Wrong size.
Lean though. Yeah.
So he was 6'6". He looked like he was chiseled in the Big Ten. They just tell him to go in there and just rough people up. Coach was like, literally, it was like people flying off like bowling balls. He was 270. So that was crazy. And then you got the Fab Five up at Michigan. Michigan just kept
just the Fat Five.
just doing people. You know, and after the Fab Five left, they brought in Trailer, Tractor Trailer, and then you got Maurice Taylor, Maceo Baston, that whole crew.
Lewis Bullock.
And then you got the that whole crew. So that Michigan team was nice for a while. Just doing people.
But that was the Big Ten left.
They always had somebody at least one superstar on every team. And then you have Maurice and
everybody we just named pretty much. Everybody we named pretty much had an NBA
Lewis
career.
Bullock.
Yeah, at least some NBA career, whatever it was. They had some level of NBA. So had my opportunity to play a little bit. My junior and senior year was nice. So
everybody we just named pretty much.
Everybody we named teams in the Big Ten. Second team All Big Ten. At least some NBA career. Honorable mention, and then first team All Big Ten. So I did all right. Did all right for myself.
Great.
By the time I was a senior.
That's great.
My junior and senior year was nice.
So after Illinois, where'd your journey take you?
Man,
teams in the Big Ten.
So
it looked like it took you somewhere where that hat.
Looked like you landed in a sweet situation.
That logo,
South City, baby. Right. So by the time I was watching the draft that night, and my coach goes, I remember I worked out for a bunch of teams, and San Antonio really liked you. San Antonio's like, we like your game. We know. We watched you grow. And actually, Lon Kruger was our coach. And then so Lon knew the player development guy over in San Antonio.
Right. So I was watching the draft that night.
He's a classic tweener.
I remember I worked out for a bunch of
So
teams.
here's for the audience. If you don't know what a tweener is somebody that don't really play a position. We know you may be one size, but you may really play a different position. So I was a 3-4. But I wasn't a 3 because I didn't have the handle, and I wasn't a 4 because I didn't have the size.
San Antonio, he was like, this kid can play. He's like, he's a classic tweener. So here's for the audience. If you don't know what a tweener is, it's somebody that don't really play a position.
Right.
You may be one size, but you may really play a different position.
Right.
I was a 3-4, but I wasn't a 3 because I didn't have the handle, and I wasn't a 4 because I didn't have the size.
Like Travis in football, he was a tight end, but he was built like an offensive lineman. So he was in between.
I was like an H-back because I'm like 6'2", and I was about 230, 240. And also the scheme, we ran the triple option, and there was no place for a tight end. So I did play tackle. So I was a tweener.
I'm a running tight end.
He was Mike Allstott, but was Tony Gonzalez at the same time.
I played against Tony Gonzalez.
I know
and
the
them
struggle
too at Cal. Did them too.
Subtle flex.
I did them too.
Sharif Abdul-Rahim gave him 20. Reggie, I know you paying attention. In college, sure did. Yeah, sure did, bro. I told you I was decent. So
we're not debating that.
Okay, man. Just making
we listening. We talking.
Making sure you know. So ended up in Chicago. I got picked up as a free agent. Didn't get drafted. Got picked up as a free agent. I was one of the first free agents they signed. That year, it was the Bulls. The Bulls had won the national title, and so they only had one pick. That the national title, right? Championship, right? But they were, I love college, man. But they didn't have a pick. They had traded away their picks in the first round, and then they had a couple picks in the second round. And
what year is this?
This is 96, 97.
Okay.
So their choice was Keith Booth out of Maryland.
Yep.
Yeah, that was their draft pick that year.
Yeah, game.
Okay.
In college, at least. Yeah.
And Rusty LaRue.
Oh, he had big game.
So that was their choices.
Oh, he's gonna get. He take the bait.
You didn't like those picks.
They were decent. Hey, you wouldn't pick them first, would you? I'm gonna tell you right now, you wouldn't pick them. You wouldn't be like, "Hey, Keith Booth, come run my team."
Keith Booth coming out of college was a good pick, though.
He was deep. Well, first of all, let me tell you about the Keith Booth pick. I'm gonna break it down for you. Keith Booth was undersized. He was smaller than me, and they had him ready to play the 2, but in the college he played the 4.
All I know is he could play.
Yeah. So he was strong. He was nice. He was decent. But my handle was bad. His was horrible. Like, if you was playing video games, if you look at his attributes of ball handling, his was like a -5. Like, remember dude dribble and he just fall down. Yeah. He just fall down and lose the ball. That was it. That was dude, man. We used to give him the business in practice. We were like, you were the draft pick. So I came to Chicago with the idea that, hey, I'll make my way through the practice roster, and then maybe make my way onto the squad, because there were some openings there for bench guys to stretch the defense. So they were looking for big guys that can shoot. That's what they were looking for.
For our listeners, how tall are you?
Because of collapsing. So I ended up in Chicago. Ended up on the practice roster.
Gandy.
Yes, sir.
You what? 6'10"?
6'9".
6'9"? Okay. So y'all to know, stretching the floor like with Dirk, 7-footers got jumpers and stuff.
Yeah, this was before 7-footers really started shooting outside. 7-footers were shooting from the free throw line.
Yeah,
but I was stretching. I could shoot. I could shoot the 3. I wasn't Reggie Williams shooting the 3. Yeah. Ain't too many people Reggie Williams shooting the 3, but
it was a long road to get a jump shot.
I was all right. That's one thing you had in your hand, boy. You had flame. I seen it. I've seen it in person, so I know you can shoot the ball. I know you can shoot that thing. So, anyways, I ended up in Chicago, so I got a chance to play with Jordan and Pippen and Rodman, those guys every day at practice. I got my brains beat in on a regular basis and pick up games. We play pig and everything after me. You love pig. It was cool, man. It was cool,
How was that atmosphere? I mean, I know right now that documentary is out, The Last Dance, so everybody's getting an inside look. But they're getting it, from the lens. How was that atmosphere in there, whether it was, every day or night in and night out, being around those guys? Like, we want the perspective from someone that was actually there.
Facts.
Well, it was one is that you have no name. So when you came to practice, so I brought out our practice jersey, bro. Yeah, this is the official.
Nobody had a name.
Yeah. So the deal was your nickname was Rook. Rook 1, Rook 2, Rook 3, right? And so you didn't get any respect from the vets, right? So there was that hierarchy. It was like, hey Rook, grab the bags. Hey Rook,
problem. Oh yeah, I saw a clip. Who was smacking Pippen on? Who was smacking Pippen on the daggone documentary?
That was Oakley. That was in like 87.
But they were saying he was like he was a bully though.
Yeah. So in NBA you are called a Rook. I know
Rook.
That you are a Rook.
Yeah, Rook. Hey Rook, grab the bags. Rook. Hey man, you paying for dinner for? I mean, it was just So it was what it was, man.
What's your most quote unquote horrific rookie experience? And it don't have to be bad.
You making them relive it.
But like for me, I didn't have nothing. I had good vets. So my vets were like Ronnie Turioff and Corey Maggette. And like,
Corey's a good dude.
Corey's a great dude. So it was like, go get some donuts. Ronnie was like, carry my Xbox.
Carry my bag, yeah.
Yeah, but it was nothing like outrageous. Like Corey took care of me. Like I love that.
Yeah,
dude.
no, we were. I mean, actually, they were because they were here in Chicago. They were in Chicago, right? And I played at Illinois.
Yeah,
all the Illinois games were on TV, so they were big college basketball fans.
So they knew you.
Yeah, they was like, "What up?" They was like, "We've been watching you for a while, man. You was nice last year, So they were always pretty respectful to me.
Damn.
Yeah, they're huge college basketball. They were huge college basketball fans, man. Yeah. I mean, they were like, man, because like I said, all the Illinois games were on TV. So in Illinois, it's broadcast that's kind of it was before Northwestern and some of the other teams that's just Illinois' team, right?
Yeah.
That's the state's team. Like, get on board. So it wasn't bad for me in that scenario. at all. I mean, there's some stories I could tell, but I can't really tell because there's some stories like that. But nothing really bad happened to me other than, I wouldn't call it bad, but it was just an experience. And so in practice, I'll run y'all through this, right? So in practice, basically, you got this squad over here who basically is like what I call the practice squad. And then you got the starters, and then you got kind of the second team.
Yeah.
You got the second team, and then you just kind of sub in on certain teams. But in this squad, nobody really played with the starting players, right? I mean, every now and again, they say, hey, go in for a play or two. But everybody pretty much rotated on the second squad because of injury or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then they just sub in, and then you were the scout team a lot of times. So I remember one time, though, I got an opportunity to run. We were doing something. They were like, hey, let's run a game. And so they divided everybody up. And I happened to be on the same squad as your boy MJ, right? And you know, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal because at the end of the day, you know, my first day there, I remember I picked up a friend, called my boy, and was like, "Hey man," I remember I went in the locker room and I was like, "Hey man, guess where I'm at?" He was like, "Where?" He's like, "Where you at?" I said, "I'm in the locker room, bro, and Jordan here. All right, I'm out. Peace." Right? He's like, "Hey man, you know, you grow up, you like, man, I hope I get a chance to meet him one day." But I met him, he was cool. But this day in practice, I remember we were on a fast break or something. So I was out there for a couple plays, and somehow, some way, I figured out a way. I reached around, stole a ball, and tipped it ahead. And he was running, and of course they're going to try to cut him off and stop him from scoring the basket. And he did some move and then passed the ball back to me. But I'm just running, trying to see, you know, I'm running. Reg, check this out. Reg, I'm just running, trying to make sure that, hey, I go ahead and get me either a rebound or I go ahead and try to get me a layup after it's all said and done, whatnot. But I'm running so hard. You ever been running so hard that you try to catch it, you're like, oh, right? Right?
Not me, because I'm all about a bucket, Gandy.
I'm running as hard as I can, right? So I'm like, I want to prove that I'm going to work hard. Bro, they threw me the ball, man. It hit off my hands. It was like, poop. It was slow motion, man. It just kind of floated out of bounds. And I remember his look on his face was like this. Look, his look was like this.
That was it.
So we was coming down the floor, and I just wanted to stay away from him on that side. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna just go over here, and I'm gonna run a pick over here. I got this dude over here, and I remember. So I avoid him for a couple plays, and you know it can go up and down the floor 2-3 times before there's a break.
Right.
And I remember there was a break, and I was walking over there, and dude, he was the one taking the ball out of bounds, and he goes, "Hey, Brooke, not a cold day in hell will I ever pass you the ball ever again."
Wow.
I said, "Damn." I said, "Okay, cool." But that was one of my rookie mistakes, man. Just not being ready when it was time to be ready, man. Right?
Yeah.
Because I would have had a nasty dunk on him too, Reggie. Right?
And that who knows what that would have did?
Right. He might have been like, "Hey, I want this kid to play with us." Right?
Yeah.
But he seemed like he just had that killer instinct. I know you can speak to that, but I mean, that probably wasn't anything personal. You know, it seemed like that's how he talked to everybody. Like
everybody, right? There was more fights at practice. There was a fight at practice.
It seemed like that dream team practice was.
It was a fight every day at practice. So somebody was talking about somebody. Ron Harper was over there stuttering at somebody. Everybody was trying to punk Tony Kukoc. Everybody was trying to punk him.
They did Tony bad, man.
Everybody was trying to punk him because they brought him in. And they was like, he better than Scotty. I was like, what? This dude right here, this big European dude, right? He was. I mean, at the end of the day, he was nice, but he was soft as cotton. He was nice, but he was soft as cotton candy, bro.
It seemed like that.
He was nice though. But I mean, his game was nice. He had a good. I mean, Reggie knows he had that European game. Like he had that European game where he ain't going.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching.
He ain't going in the paint and trying to hit you with a right. He ain't trying to do that up and under and try to dunk on nobody. Like he gonna finger roll, or he gonna try to hit a J and move you outside. He was 7 foot tall, so
yeah. So he's a matchup nightmare.
Yeah. People used to hate him though, man. So
I don't hate his game.
They used to try to punk him every day.
Okay.
But there was just certain guys, man, they just test, man. But, you stood your ground. And at the end of the day, man, it was a great experience. I loved it. I accidentally sat in one time. We went to the film area, and it was funny. Behind us, so it would have in film. So those of you who don't know, like film, you literally watch film for 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and they break down each person and each position. So we were watching. I walked into the film room. This is one of the first times I got allowed into the film room, and I remember I walked in, and there was everybody else's chair. There was everybody else's chair, and then there was these chairs that sat on this banister up here, right? And it was like it looked like captain chairs, right? It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I'm like, man, this is a nice chair up here. I'm gonna go sit up here so I can see. Reggie, I'm like, I'm gonna go see. It was like, hey, you need to go ahead and move because that's Phil's chair. You can't sit over there. I was like, oh.
On every team I've been on in the NBA, the first thing when we go on the film, I don't even sit down. I don't sit down.
See where everybody else sits.
I ask. And I say, who sits where?
Who sits where? Right.
Yeah.
Smart.
What were you thinking? I mean, what was going on?
I'm a rookie. I'm green.
Right.
I'm anxious, right? I'm like, I'm in the film room. Let me go ahead and get comfortable. I'm in the film room, Reggie.
Yeah.
Reggie, I'm in the film room. Let me put my ice pack on. I'm gonna go ahead and get comfortable. That's what I was like. Let me go ahead and get comfortable, bro.
What was it like playing for Phil?
We didn't really, honestly, we didn't really spend a lot of time with him. We spent more time with Tex Winters and then Bill Cartwright.
Okay.
So Bill Cartwright was essentially the player coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he really worked with us a lot.
Tex was more X's and O's.
He was really X's and O's. There was a handful of guys around that helped us a lot. But we didn't really, he would basically tell me they ran the plays. Like the players, Phil taught, coached the mentality, but the guys ran the plays.
Right.
Like there's so many options.
Most of the time, the assistant coaches kind of run practice.
Yeah.
And the head coaches kind of sit back.
Right.
They have their input.
For sure. It's the same way in football.
Okay, the assistant coaches pretty much run it.
Yeah. I think Phil
so they had Cartwright was our guy. So he basically, hey, you take that ball. That was him. Yeah. You laugh at that, but if y'all put Bill Cartwright up here right now and listen to what he said, what?
Bill Cartwright.
Right?
Man, you had some
coaches.
He
hit you with them elbows. You remember that? He used to give people splinters.
With that ugly ass jump shot.
Yeah, like this.
She like way back.
That shit was ugly. But it worked. It worked.
Yeah. Man. And tough dude, man. But nice guy. He had throat cancer or something, man.
Okay.
Not too long ago. So that was one of the reasons why he didn't have a voice. He got elbowed when he was younger, and then so he had some sort of throat issue.
Damn.
A throat cancer or something like that. But it was great. Honestly, it was a great experience. I see people watching The Last Dance, and that's at that point you realize the business of sports, right? It doesn't matter how good you are, because I actually had a phenomenal preseason. But contracts dictate, and Reggie, you know this, man. Yes. Contracts dictate how many minutes you get and who gets the shots.
Facts.
I'll comment on this because I can speak to this. But I went to see Reggie play in Charlotte numerous times. And I remember, what's the cat on their team you used to shoot all the time, Reggie?
Kemba?
No, the light-skinned cat from North Carolina.
Gerald.
What's his name?
Gerald Henderson?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
That's my boy, man. Yeah. Don't say nothing bad about Gerald.
Gerald, I didn't say nothing bad. I said Gerald ain't never found a shot he didn't like, though, especially in Charlotte, bro. He was getting it up 20, 25 times a night.
He said he ain't found a shot.
And I'm like, man, dude. But it's that's how, the NBA, man, that's how it was. It was like, I remember people said, man, they're paying him $10 million a year. They pay you a rookie, man. You ain't like even if you give him the business in practice, it don't matter. He hooping. He gonna get some time. He gonna get some tick.
Yeah, you hear it. I mean, we hear that. I mean, you was hearing that back in '96, and I mean, even to this day, I'm not in the NBA anymore, but I still hear young guys and even older guys my age or whatnot, and still say the same thing. I mean, they're not paying you to come in here and score or come in here and take shots. Like, that's why we paying, like you said, that's why we paying him $10 million a year.
That's why we paying him $10 million a year.
15,
so
20
you think
times.
about the game itself, you can have, and again, every now and again, you have some breakout guys who really come out and do their thing. Like right now you got the, what's his name? Paul from down there in Miami. He was at Illinois. Brandon Paul was at Illinois. And
he's back overseas now.
But what was the kid?
He's at a high level overseas. Very high level. EuroLeague.
But there's some guys that can hoop that don't get an opportunity because they perhaps are on the wrong team. Yeah. But you got to go somewhere where you fit. Like, I thought the best place for me to go fit somewhere was a place where they had a great center. Because between a great center and a great guard, you can't cheat, right? And if anytime you cheat, you just destroy them from being athletic. I was crazy athletic.
So you wanted to be down there between Avery Johnson and David Robinson.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wanted to go to San Antonio because it fit. Tim Duncan was down there too.
Was he down there? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
No, not yet. He wasn't there yet.
97.
He came in the league.
Yeah. That's what I said. 96,
97.
Yeah. So in that summer when I came around to play with them.
Oh, yeah. He was a rookie. He'd been a rookie.
He was a rookie.
Duncan was playing since the beginning of the time, bro.
That's nice. But I'm saying that would have been nice. That would have been nice to play with those guys because
then you can't double team and all that stuff.
You would got 15 to 17-foot jumpers all day.
Right.
Do you feel like that, Reggie? Like you got into the right situation? Like with Golden State?
Golden State was the perfect situation. Charlotte it wasn't a good fit. I mean, it could have been. It's hard to say. It might not have been. I think sometimes it's the coaching.
A lot of it.
And I didn't have my second year in Charlotte, I didn't have a good coach at all. But I mean, it's the same story across all sports, really. And I do believe that the system plays an important part in a player's development and success.
Absolutely.
And in basketball, baseball, football, because we've seen some guys just thrive like to another level in certain systems under certain coaches, and then they sign a big new contract with a new team.
See what happens to Tom Brady.
Yeah, and that system or a new coach comes in and changes the system, and it just doesn't fit them. Doesn't mean they're not a good player, but sometimes it's not a fit. And like you said, we'll see with Tom Brady. Everybody's saying Tom Brady and is the Bill Belichick system, because every quarterback that's been in Bill Belichick's system has been successful.
Yeah,
but now Tom Brady don't have Belichick, and what's the quarterback coach that he had in New England?
Well, he doesn't have. He's going down to Tampa. Tampa's a decent. He didn't go to the worst team in the NFL.
No, he's got some weapons. He's got some weapons.
They were decent. I mean, they were decent last year. I mean,
8, 7, 9.
Winston had all those turnovers. They had all those turnovers.
Yeah.
If he didn't have all those turnovers in the last 5 minutes of the games, they would have been.
Because I think they finished 7-9 or something, or 8-8.
Yeah, they would have been in the hunt, right? Mm-hmm. So they get a new quarterback. You got a couple guys now saying, "Hey, we gonna go." Now they didn't pick up a couple guys like, "I'm gonna go play with Tom Brady."
Yeah, Gronk back out of retirement.
They talk about Gronkowski coming back just to play with Tom Brady. I mean,
straight out of the
you get some guys back there, man.
We'll see.
You have a decent line. We'll see. We'll see what he does.
I think it'll be interesting to see, because that is the perfect example. That will be the perfect example, and I hope he does succeed. But if he doesn't, of how a system benefits a player.
Mm-hmm.
No, well, he's going to. They're going to succeed because they're going to do everything they possibly can to put things around him so he can succeed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, that's what they're going to do. And number two, if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. He'll kill you.
Yeah.
Right. He's a killer. Right. He is a guy that is a tactician when it comes to dissecting a defense, right? So, at the end of the day, I think the Belichick system helped him. It was like Darren Williams. If Darren Williams went to anywhere else in the NBA other than Utah, his first year under Sloan, he'll tell you, Sloan helped me a ton.
Yeah, Sloan
because
had him on point.
He literally taught him. He's like, Jerry Sloan taught me everything I know.
Yeah.
He's like, I remember I talked to him. And he's like, hey, man. He's like, man, can I tell you this? He's like, ain't nothing to do in Utah because they close everything.
Oh, nothing.
Because of Mormon thing. He goes, man, ain't nothing to do here, man.
But be in the gym.
So he's like, man, I lived in the gym.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. And he was under Sloan. I mean, Sloan was a great NBA player himself, right? So he can teach him.
Fellow Chicago Bull.
Yeah, man, teach him what to do.
Yeah.
So, the legacy, man. So I mean, Chicago was cool. The My NBA stint was great. I enjoyed it. I thank God every day I had an opportunity to play the game. I know that it's a dream. It's a dream with a deadline, right? Is it one day when you realize it, the game is done with you, whether you done with it or not, right? And so I decided after I got done playing, and my playing career ended because of an injury. Unlike most, right? Some injuries you can come back from, but I had what they call the terrible triad, which is 3 ligaments, 1 move. It was a sweet move too, Reggie boy. It was nice, right? But that move ended my career. It didn't end my career because I couldn't rehab and go back and play. But what it did was it ended my career because I couldn't play at the speed I was used to playing at.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My knee would swell at times, especially overseas. Overseas, the conditioning is a little different.
Way different.
Let me explain something. To you.
You don't got to explain to me.
This dude was just running suicides in Korea.
Just finished running suicides like I'm in high school in Korea. Oh, that man get you in shape, but sheesh.
Hey, I remember our coach said, "Hey, we got running today." I was like, "Okay, let's line up on the line and let's run." He said, "Nope." He said, "Everybody get on the bus." Bro, he took us on the bus, took us to the top of the mountain and say, "We'll see y'all when y'all get back." I was like, what?
So my first year in France, our training camp was in the French Alps.
What the hell?
It's in the French Alps training camp.
That was where I played my second year, Vichy.
Okay. Yeah, they were in the league when I was there.
Vichy.
I think they dropped down now, but when I was there, they were in the top league in France. But yep, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah. So that's a different type of conditioning, but the wear and tear on your joints. It's funny. I was listening to an orthopedic surgeon. I was listening to an orthopedic surgeon the other day talk about this. Is that 90% of NBA athletes within 7 years of them retiring either need knee or hip surgery, and within 15 years need a hip or a knee replacement.
So I think I'm heading down that.
No, Reg.
I got 3 knee surgeries.
Yeah.
Right. You think about it, right? And Reg, if you go back in time, you start thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, you're kind of right. It's because of the constant wear and tear and the pressure you're putting on your knees, your kneecaps, your joints. And during that period of time, it's breaking your body down.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're trying to figure out how to do that and then live the rest of your life. Because again, Kane, you want to be able to go play with your kids. You want to go be able to spend time with your wife. You want to go be able to hang out with your boys. You want to be able to hit them a couple times with a move just so they can say, hey, you know what? I still got it.
Right?
I still got it, bro.
Absolutely.
I hit you with one of these, like the dream shake.
Yep.
Right? Hit him with one of those. But it's the same thing, man. You want to be able to show you still got it. So I had the surgery, and then I wanted to prove that I left the game because I wanted to leave the game, not because the game left me. So I rehabbed really hard, man, and went back and played. And I was 13 months back playing full speed, but I was playing with swelling. So I went back overseas to France, man, and then ended up playing my team the third game and gave them the business. Had a remarkable game. and then retired the next day.
Nice.
Retired the next day, man. People were like this. They were like, "Hey, you had a great game. So what should we expect for you this season?" I said, "I'm out. I'm going home."
Well, at least you went out on your terms, though.
I said, "Man, I'm going home."
So you left the game. You left the game with no regrets. And you got to go out on your terms.
I left the game. I had a couple contracts. I remember my agent would call me. He's like, "Man, where are you at? You going home?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so the next year, I had a couple contract opportunities in a lower league.
Yeah.
And I was like, because your popularity after you leave an area is only good for a handful of years to the next group of superstars come. Right. So I wanted to capitalize and monetize on the relationships that I had built. Right. So I said, my mother gave me a brain and she gave me 2 feet. She helped me understand that one day it's a dream with a deadline. So that's just acceptance of life. It's time to turn the chapter and start working on, the next chapter. So I got into the business I'm in now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Full court press. Wow. You know what I mean? 40 minutes of hell. That's why I got into it.
Little Arkansas Razorbacks. Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. So your basketball career is over at this point.
Check yourself, Reggie. It ain't never over, baby.
Well, I
can get you right now. I can get you.
We gotta set up a pig
right
game
now, bro.
We gotta set up a game of
pigs.
There's only one way to settle it.
Yeah. We're gonna have to tape it because if I get him, I'm gonna talk about it for the next 10 years.
You're not gonna get me a pig.
Look, he didn't want to play. Look, he do like, all right.
We could do pig.
I never run from competition.
We could do pig the same day I'm gonna do the suicide.
Oh yeah,
challenge.
he owe me suicides.
This dude was complaining about 5 suicides, running them in under 28 seconds.
Yeah.
5 suicides under 28 seconds.
Yeah. That's cake.
That's all right. But what he don't realize.
No. Not like,
What he don't realize, it sounds easy.
I did them. I was getting them in 25.
It sounds easy. But he also isn't practicing for an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, and then somebody telling him to get on the line and run a suicide.
Right, so I'll run 7.
In 28 seconds.
I'll run 7.
28. Wait, there's suicides and there's real suicides. So what suicides was you running?
I'm running free throw line back, half court back.
That's how you know who played. Right?
Other free throw
I had
line
to ask him too.
Back, full court back.
Oh, that's real.
Yeah, that's a real one.
That's real.
That's real. After going for an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes.
So I would say that's real.
I don't know if I did the other.
I was gonna say most people run suicides. They run half court back, free throw line back, and then in and back. That's how most people run.
So the way I did it to make my time is I went full court first, back, then the other free throw line back, half court back, free throw line back. Yeah, as long as you touch all 4.
Choice?
Damn.
Yeah, as long as you touch all 4.
Huh.
They gave you that choice?
Yeah. Because the first time I did it, I went free throw line, half court, free throw line, full court. And I cut it too close.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But I figured I took the longer route first. So then when I got to the last part, I still had like 2 seconds when I was...
You was gassed.
Yeah. Okay. But by the time I was gassed, I was already back.
Yeah.
So I had to switch it up. But you gotta think, you've played sports at a high level. You play sports after an hour and a half of just fighting, banging, running, doing all these damn drills, and then coach like, all right, get on the line.
Well,
like I'm done. I'm already done at that point.
I hear you, but I'm still gonna talk shit.
All right. Well, like I said, we can get a game of pig. We can get a game of suicide.
Okay, we good.
A game of suicide. A suicide challenge.
We good. Y'all gonna race the suicide?
No, he's just gonna watch. He's gonna stand there with the clock. Probably.
I want to see the clock. I want to see him run and touch it.
Yeah, I got it.
We want to see the film.
Oh, did you have to touch your hand to the line?
I mean, you just run. Your foot touch.
Oh, your foot. See.
Yeah.
Okay.
See.
Yeah. No, you good, Reggie. Come on, man.
All right. We'll see.
Come on, man.
We'll see. So.
All right. So that was.
You're done. Basketball is over. Well, not over, but you're pivoting. So you've done you've played basketball. You've had a successful career, and now you're pivoting or transitioning to the next chapter of your life.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about what that move was and some positives from your transition from basketball to where you're at now.
That transition could be tough.
Because the transition period for a lot of athletes is, as Travis said, very tough. And, a lot of times as athletes, we don't know where to go. And Travis is a rapper, or I like to say an entertainer, because he's more than just a rapper. And, as far as entertainment goes in general, those guys deal with the same thing too.
Right.
Your rap career could be, you have your moment and then it starts on the decline, just like athletes.
Just
and then
like
you pivot
else.
and transition. So tell us a little bit about that.
So that transition was easy for me because I left on my terms. I just didn't know what I was going to do, right? So I had my degree in business communications from the University of Illinois. My star was still hot. Remember, I told you I had messed around and made a couple of the nice Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
And I was a captain on the on Illinois' team down in Champaign, Illinois, for 2 years. So I had a little bit of celebrity, right, in that area. Plus, I had played in Chicago for a little bit of time, so I was, feeling good about myself, right? And so I had built some relationships around the league, had met some guys, and the transition for me wasn't as difficult. I just had to figure out what to do. So the first thing I did was I did something that I thought was natural. Is I went to talk on the radio. So I did a show on the radio called Hoop Scoop.
Okay.
And Hoop Scoop was talking to players behind the scenes, having real conversations with them about who they were as a person, not what they did for a living or what they did for what they did while they were playing. Because most people watch players and they like, oh, I know him. But then once they start talking to people, they realize you're just another person, just like everybody else, right? And so just getting their personality out there, give them an opportunity to kind of talk about something other than basketball, right? And so it was called Hoop Scoop. A local radio station in Champaign paid me to do it, so I thought it was kind of nice. And I had my old radio voice. Welcome to Hoop Scoop. This is Chris Gandy. I had it.
Oh, Trav got a Trav was like, Trav got a radio voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Chris Gandy from Hoop Scoop. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you all being here today.
Thanks for joining the show, Chris Gandy. It's a pleasure to have you here on the Synonymous Podcast, and that was Hoop Scoop.
Right. So it was, I had a little fun. I had a little fun with that, man, and. I got that first check. I got that first check, bro, and I was like, "What you want me to do with this? I can't even, dude. I can't even get a bag of chips with this." So I realized, man, you can't really make any money. I couldn't make any money in radio, so they sent me out there to sell advertising because I had a name. And then I'm like, "How y'all expect me to sell air?" Right? I'm like, how do I? First person said, "How do I know it worked?" Well, I don't know.
So they trying to make. So you was like a mad. What's that show? Mad Men.
That shit was crazy, man. So I did that for a hot minute, for about a month, and I'm like, nah, this ain't what I should be doing. So I had a degree in, like I said, business communications, and I had studied finance in college. So I'm good with numbers, and so my contract. Remember, I told you, right? So when I got hurt, my agent had negotiated my contract be paid out to me, a big chunk of it, so they could release me. And the Bulls still had my rights. So back in the day, let's see, probably 4 collective bargaining, probably more than that, probably 6 or 8 collective bargaining agreements ago. I don't know if they still do this, but they used to be able to trade a player and keep their rights for 3 years or 2 years, depending on when you came. So if you came, it was a 3-year contract. There was your rights, and then there was the actual player. So they could trade you, they could get rid of you, they could cut you, but they still had your rights. So the only way you could sign with another team is they had to release your rights. So the Bulls technically still had my rights. So I couldn't sign with another NBA team without getting the Bulls' approval. So they were able to use that to get my money paid out to me from overseas, because I could have went back and played in another NBA team. So I got my money paid out to me. Basically, I got all my money paid out to me in about 26 months. I did what everybody else do that's 20-some years old. Yeah, I did what everybody else do at 20-some years old, man.
Like that. You might not get all.
I went out and got a car, spending on some women and some drink and, whatnot. Not all of it, just a little bit, right? And then one day I saw a guy, he's a wide receiver at Illinois, and I'm like, what are you doing now, man? He's like, man, I got this financial group I'm a part of. You should come down. And what are you doing now? And I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm trying to get my money from Europe. He's like, when you get it, come talk to me. We'll figure out what to do with it. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I went in to see him. And he just talked to me like a normal person. Was like, here's where you are. Here's what you can do. Here's what you should be doing. Regardless of what you decide to do, I think you'll be good at it. And then I was getting ready to leave, and I'm like, I was going to go to an interview at a bank. And I was like, no, I'm going to be sitting at the bank. So I ended up going to, after I talked to him, I called him back, and I said, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. I said, what kind of car you drive? He told me. I said, okay.
What was it?
That's a nice car. It was an Avalon.
A Toyota.
Toyota Avalon. The Cadillac for the black. I was like, all right, good. So I was like, all right, that's a nice car. I said, because I remember I was in Champaign playing basketball. I said, where do you live? He told me it was called Cherry Hills. So I said, okay, Cherry Hills. Okay, that's a nice neighborhood. Okay, so mind you, I grew up kind of just with whatever we had, man. We didn't really have much. We didn't live in gated neighborhoods or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like, I know that's a nice neighborhood. You drive a nice car. Let me ask you a question. You make 6 figures last year? He said, yep. I said, okay, cool. I said, so why don't you teach me what you do? And then I'll do that. He's like, you really want to do that? I said, sure, why not? So he's like, well, why don't you show up Monday? And we got a training class. And mind you, now, this is how you know that you like to compete. So when we got there, I was in this training class, and I'm going to start in the world of financial something. I don't even know what I'm going to start in, but I know it's going to be financial something. I'm going to be helping people. And so I know players, and I got a bunch of players. Simeon Rice was a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. Simeon's a great guy. Well, he was the number 2 pick in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's a beast. Kevin Hardy, that was the number 2 and number 3 pick.
Yep.
So those were the number 2 and 3 pick in the NFL that year.
Yeah.
Both of them were friends of mine. So they were like, man, Gandy, you get your license, whatnot, talk to me, man, we can do something. So I was like, okay, at least I know I can get a couple people to do something. But I remember I went to the class, and some people have been preparing for this for, their life. I mean, they've been preparing for this for 3-6 months. I've been working, trying to do this. I showed up this day, I wasn't prepared. I said, he just told me to show up, and maybe I like it. So I went through the training. They said, okay, everybody stand up. So everybody stood up. There was like 8 people in the room. Yeah. They were like, okay, half the people sit down. And I'm like, okay, what's this all about, right? This is like Duck, Duck, Goose. What is this? They were like, half of you won't be here in 6 months because you don't have the guts of what it takes to make it. Like,
so they lit a fire under
Reggie. So I'm like, well, first of all, they didn't even know who I was because I didn't have, my name wasn't even on the roster. I had to write in. I had to put my name down, right? So I'm like, okay. So they were like, okay, now half of the other people sit down. So now there's only 2 people standing up. And I'm like, okay. So they were like, half of you won't be here 2 years from now. They said, do you see the people? They said, now half of you sit down again. And then there was one person standing up. They said, see the person standing up? If this person can survive for 3 years, this person will be in this career, has a 98% chance of being in this career the rest of their life. And I'm like, okay. So now, Reggie, in my head, as an athlete, I said, okay, so let me see who's going to be the first to fall because it ain't going to be me. Right. And my whole deal was it ain't going to be, I'm going to be the last one standing.
Yeah.
So literally, I was the last one standing in the group, right? I just literally outworked everybody. They were like, hey, I'm going to make 20 calls. I'm going to make 30 calls, 20 calls a day just because, that's kind of how I feel. I was like, okay, this is like shooting jumpers. I got to get up 50 in the morning, 50 in the afternoon, right? I just took everything we did in sports to create repetition and did it in our business, right? And just turned my brain off and said, if they going to do that, the only way I make it is I work twice as hard, right? I work twice as hard. So I took what they call athlete transmutation, is you're able to take something from what you learned in sports and use it today.
You translated the skills.
Right? And you're able to do it. You're able to do it today and do it to grow in your current environment, right? And I think that's what a lot of athletes struggle with is how do I take what's naturally ingrained in me, put myself in a position so then I can transform myself in the current position and still use the same skill set and discipline I learned in sports. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's the same as like, do you get the same, excitement of running out of the locker room and people screaming your name and you smell the popcorn, you hear the band and all that.
Yeah, that shit never gets old.
Right. You're like, okay, I don't get that, but do I get the same fulfillment by doing it a different way? Right. So it was just a repetition game for me. I would just outwork everybody. Like if you're on the treadmill, I'm on the treadmill. At the end of the day, even if I'm tired, I'm not going to drop until you drop. That's how it works. Right. So
hard work beat talent.
Talent don't work hard.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, I just work harder than everybody else. So I started out in the business, man. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know anybody that made over $30,000 a year. That's where I started. People was like, hey, yeah, I want to, if people were like, man, I'm getting this person to save $100 a month, $200 a month, $500 a month. I was lucky to get people to save $20. Like, hey, you can save $20. I know you can save $20, $20 to help your future. You can save $20. And that's how I got my reps in.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. My reps, I'm getting tighter, but my skill is getting better because I'm getting in reps. Right. And so over a period of time, it's just a law of numbers. Right. So my numbers, because I'm doing so much more, I'm getting so much more experience. My skill is tightening a lot faster than yours because you're only doing enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. 10,000 hours.
Yeah. So essentially what ended up happening, bro, is my business ended up multiplying itself because of the exponential effect of it. Right. And so they were like, man, this dude's a phenom, right? And I'm like, what? Hey, I only know people that can save $20 an hour. I thought you were the smart one because you knew people that save $500 or $1,000 an hour. Right. I get it, right? So I built my business on volume, bro. And then I realized I knew athletes, I knew players, I knew professionals that would do business with me because my whole mindset was I can out-execute. It's the X's and O's, right? So I can out-execute the majority of people because I understand execution, right? And so at a very high level, right? And that's where I think Chicago helped me is because people will talk about the triangle offense, but if you look at the triangle offense, most people don't understand that just from one set of the triangle offense, there's like 70 some odd different plays that come from sets.
Right.
There's a bunch of options. And so you have to be able to understand what the principles are of it because the thing they teach you when you go there in Chicago was they would teach you the principles of the triangle.
Yeah, the foundation, basically. They give you the foundation.
And
then
they would run
reads and cuts and stuff off of it.
Right. But everything after the triangle was set was all about separation. So you would know that this and this could happen if you read this or this, right? So that was one of the greatest experiences, being able to dissect things that are happening around you so then you can react and have a positive outcome. Mm-hmm. That was probably one of the greatest things I learned in Chicago is it wasn't about the play. It was about the execution of the play. Literally, we would be playing. I remember I would dress up in a nice suit like this, Reggie. Blazer. Pocket square, right?
He got on a blazer and some basketball shorts right now.
Clean. Yeah, he probably got some church socks.
Some church socks.
Some sliders.
So I remember we were sitting behind the bench one day and we were all dressed nice and we were sitting on the bench. And I remember there were people that were calling the play out. They were literally calling the play as they were running it. They were like, we're going to run red to square or red to pipe or whatever. They would literally call the play before they even ran it and still couldn't stop it. Still couldn't. It didn't matter what you were doing. They were just like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like you couldn't stop it. Even when you knew what they were doing, you couldn't stop it. Just like the Patriots. Just like San Antonio, when the Spurs were good and they had Duncan and they had Ginobili and all those guys, people would know their damn plays.
Well, their
people would know the plays and they still couldn't
stop. Just ball movement. Popovich has a rule. It's like 0.1 seconds. You have to decide whether you're going to shoot, pass, or cut. And that's why the ball moves so well in San Antonio.
Love it.
Because when it comes to you have to already have that mindset of what you're going to do.
Right. So how many times do you see now where guys dribble the air out the ball? They get the ball and let me see if I can make a move. Then they pass, right? So
and the shot clock already down.
Yeah, the ball dies. The ball dies in somebody's hands.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's why we're going to talk about basketball. That's the reason why if I had to pick a team, Melo can't play for me. He can't play for me ever. Hey, look at hey, look at him.
He don't like the Melo blasphemy.
Melo can't play for me ever.
I like Melo.
I feel you. How about AI though?
I love Melo as a basketball player, but
Melo cannot play for me ever.
I hate him on my team as far as trying to win a championship or a playoff series because of that reason.
Would you say the same thing about AI because he was a high volume shooter as well?
No, because AI went to the finals
and he did so much more than that.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, he led the NBA in steals and all that.
But Melo, you feel the same about AI?
I don't feel the same about AI. AI went to the finals.
That's a different machine.
He led the NBA. He played defense. Sure. Not saying Melo ain't playing defense.
He put his body on the line, bro. But I am. But I'll say but I don't have no ties.
Melo, if I'm just picking a team and I'm just trying to give a show and get to it, I love Melo.
No.
But if I'm trying to win a championship, if I'm trying to win a chip, I'm not picking Melo.
Reg. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an instance.
He's a baller.
You ready? He could play 1-on-1. He could play 1-on-2. He could score a lot of points. Right? But every team he went to died.
That's what I'm saying.
He went to the Nuggets. They died. He was in New York. They died. He's the killer. He's the NBA killer, bro.
At the Nuggets, they did go to the Western Conference Finals.
The team did not win the championship.
But that's what I just said. If I was picking a team to build for a championship, I'm not taking Melo.
Never be Melo.
But if I'm just trying to put butts in the stands and make money, I'm taking Melo.
Which is what it comes down to.
Melo is a hooper. But in the business of the NBA, it's about winning championships.
Okay, so bring him off the bench.
He won't do it.
He won't.
Well, then you shouldn't play.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't even know your own skill set, bro.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm not arguing with you. I just said the same thing you said.
Pass, bro. He should think pass first, shoot second. But that's what I'm saying. Or just shoot when you get it. Because once he starts to double pat and triple pat, people go to sleep. They're like,
yeah, because he's not giving up the rock.
Right. The ball dies and every defense can adjust.
Yeah, that's why the Lakers didn't sign him, or, because he's not, you can't have that on a championship team. The ball has to move in order for you to win a championship. Then at the end of the game, you play 1-on-1. But until then, you got to give that thing up.
Yeah.
But I'm not bashing Melo, but that's just how I feel about it. I think he's one of the best players on the court at all times. Mm-hmm. As far as having individual game. If we play, he's one of the best players in basketball. As what game? As far as the team concept, I don't like him.
Game.
I don't like him in the team concept. You take Portland, and it's not his fault in Portland. You go from a third place team in the West last year. They struggled a little bit this year, and he comes and it doesn't just get any better. So he's not a player you pick up to help you get better.
That's why, the risk and reward. I don't think it's not.
Like I said, the Bulls can pick him up just to fill the stands. It's good.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm picking stands, I'm taking Melo. I need some money. But if I'm trying to win a chip like the Lakers or Milwaukee, I'm not taking.
Yeah, no, he can never go to Milwaukee. If he went to Milwaukee, they boo him out the city.
I'm not taking Carmelo. That's why Houston got rid of him.
Yeah, they boo him out the city.
But.
I went through that transition, man, of all athletes trying to figure out their next step. It wasn't as hard for me because, again, I left on my terms. And then I got into the financial business, man, helping people organize their financial affairs and helping them make smart decisions with money.
Yeah.
So I had some players, baseball, football, basketball, and I just started talking to guys. So there's a written rule, right, in the sports. And Reggie, you notice there's millions and millions and millions of dollars in a locker room. But you never hear about on the news somebody got stuck up in the locker room, right? Because we don't steal from each other. That's an unwritten rule amongst players. We just don't do it. You hear all these stories about players losing money and players doing this and players doing that. You never hear of them getting shystered by another player,
right?
Ever, right? So the whole idea
it's a big fraternity, basically.
It is, right? Now our whole concept was if I'm going to help players and be a part of players' lives, we're going to do it as if I was doing it for myself. and just help them surround them with other good people who don't need their money to be successful in life, right? So wealthy people that are already successful at what they do, they don't need their money to be successful. So somebody doesn't have to lose for somebody else to win. Mm-hmm. So that was the model for me. I think the game itself gives young guys 18, 20 years old, millions and millions of dollars with no direction. I think that's a bad formula for just bad results, right?
Yeah.
And it shows itself long term, because a lot of guys, they rip through their first contract, they blow their second contract, and then their third contract is when they actually start thinking about saving money. And so, they've already ripped through a couple of those along the way. But how much more ahead could they be when they make that transition, or in a better place when they make that transition? Because all of them look back when they make the transition like, man, I wish I would have started that early.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Every last one of them.
I actually watched the 30 for 30 again, in preparation for this. And I was doing a lot of thinking about that. So I kind of wanted to pick your brain. One, like, how can we fix that? Like, what can we do to help these younger players, avoid that type of situation? And also, what do you think the problem is? Is it that these players are so young at getting all of this money for the first time? Or do you think that it's just an overall lack of education, because we don't learn these type of things in school? Like, I know, I didn't know anything about filing taxes or building credit or anything until you have to do it. So,
okay,
yeah, cool. Just speak on that a little bit.
So let me put you on game, right? Let me put you on game then. So here is the problem, right? So there's something called behavioral finance, right? So behaviors. So there's behaviors in which we learn from the time in which we're children, right? So our first behaviors we learn from our parents, whether we like it or not, right? Fact. And we learn 3 different ways: by what we see, what we hear, and what we do. That's behavioral economics. That's behavioral finance, right? So understanding that the majority of us who happen to have money or happen to acquire money, typically there's 3 areas of this. So the first thing once we acquire it, the people we actually turn to help us make decisions with it are the people that have never had it. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Right. So then guess what we do? All it does is just manifest itself in our life at a much bigger level. Right. That's number one. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that at the end of the day, we all have to understand that just because someone has money doesn't mean that they understand how to keep it.
Right.
That's one. The other thing is oppression, bro. Like, so I really believe that if you're held down anything for a period of time, and then all of a sudden they release the pressure, mm-hmm. right? You know how many people I talked to their rookie year was like, I worked for it, I earned it, I deserve XYZ, blah, 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 blah.
Give yourself an excuse to spend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because the mind says, I've been held down for so long. Now I have freedom. I can do whatever I want. And somehow we have given money, we've displaced trust between money and freedom, right? Because we believe that if we have money, we have freedom. But some of the most enslaved people around society today are the people that have the most amount of money, because they don't have freedom, right? They don't really have freedom, because with that amount of money comes a certain level of responsibility. It also comes a certain level of control, because people are always trying to get it from you. Right? But we're always in pursuit of it. So it's like, think about this. We're always in pursuit of something that we're never going to, once we get there, we really don't want it, because it's not really what we're trying to pursue. Right? And we're always running away from it, because it's the thing that actually has led us from where we're coming from. Mm. So we're kind of stuck in the middle, right? And so many times we have to change. We literally have to change the way we think, our behavior, our society, the people in which we're around, to help us get to the level where we need to go, so we don't become a statistic, so we don't become just another guy who went through the program and now they're struggling and can't make ends. I mean, I watched the AI documentary not too long ago. It's a great documentary, man. But the word on the streets, man, is that if AI's guy, his advisor, his agent, which was his agent at the same time, did a contract, his last contract he did with the team he played with, made it so AI could not touch a big chunk of his money until he was 40 years old.
Wasn't that his Reebok deal?
Yeah.
Because his Reebok deal, they put away 30-something million that he couldn't touch. So everybody's like, oh, AI is broke, which I ain't counting his pockets. But they were saying he blew through 100 million or something. But people don't realize he got like 30-something million sitting over there.
He doesn't have. I mean, it came due. So yeah, they said that was the best structured deal ever.
Yeah.
If you think about players, it's like protect me from myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what I don't know yet.
Right.
Like I'll give you an example of what I mean. So hopefully your listeners listen. You guys are listening to this. You ready? Your 20-year-old self. Do you believe your 20-year-old self would make the same decision as you were when you were 30?
Of course not.
Hell no.
Yeah, what about 30 and 35? You ain't 35 yet, Reggie, but think about just 30 to 33. Would you make the same decision?
Just 32 to 33.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? And so think about it, right? So if I know that I don't know what I don't know yet, right? How do I protect myself from myself? And the only way to do that is somebody that's actually either going to look out for you and show you what you don't already know, or somebody who's going to put you in a position to win regardless of your own personal behavior. And that's the only way it happens.
Damn. Well, look, let me ask you, you advise this guy. I mean, that must be
man.
It must be a pretty easy
I've been in
job.
this here for years. This
dude is tight with his money. What do you have to do?
Not the last few years, but we're not talking about that.
Reggie was kind of,
at first
Reggie
was really good.
No, Reggie is still, he's probably one of the more, I would say, disciplined athletes that I know. Because when he puts his mind to something, he gets it done, right? When he puts his mind to something.
Hey, wait, time out.
For real. When you put your mind,
because
it was funny.
I was talking to someone today, and we were going somewhere, and they was like, "Man, I really want like coffee." We were out, and they're like, "I want coffee," and I was like, "All right," but all the coffee shops are like, well, they're open, but the one place we went, they were like, "Oh, I gotta order it on the app. I don't want it," and they was like, "Forget it. Let's just go. It's over." I was like, "Nah, we're gonna get the coffee," and I. Like you said, in my mind, it was we're gonna get the coffee, and I rode around till I found a damn coffee shop.
Regardless of how we gonna get it, we gonna get it.
And guess what happened?
You got the coffee.
We got the damn coffee.
Of course you did.
Boy.
Of course you did.
There we go.
Of course you did. So I'd say that he and the other thing was, I think he looked at the opportunity to play in the NBA, especially while he was in the Golden State, as I don't know how long I'm gonna be here, so I need to stack my chips as fast as I can, right? He just had a different mindset. So he was never. I don't think you were ever a person that was like, man, this gonna last. I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna make end over end for years, right? Doesn't mean that you made all the right financial decisions along the way, but it simply means that your perspective on when this could potentially be over, and I know you still got years to play, but when this could potentially be over, you never were the one that took it, that said that this is always going to basically quantify who I am and what I'm about. You always said, I need to make sure I save some of this because, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what the next chapter looks like. So right. you really wasn't like most guys are kind of like, man, I know what I'm doing, even though they don't. Mm-hmm. He was never one of those. So he's kind of easy to coach in that way. In some respect.
I believe it.
Some respect.
I believe it. Nah, he was
in some respect. You know what I mean? Like some guys are just knuckleheads. They're like, even if you tell them something good, they're like, I don't want to listen, right? So, he wasn't. He's not been that dude. So it's all good.
Yeah, no, I believe that. And he was somebody who always was like, he always had a job in college. He was working in the cafeteria, you know, getting money because he had to go to get something, or probably shoes. You know,
probably shoes. Okay, let's get on the shoes. Okay, so we're gonna say the shoes. We're gonna say the shoes. Yeah,
that college money was for Domino's and the Chinese food, and
just to live. Yeah, you're right.
You know, a couple weekends when we was out, just to have a little money to have on the weekend to try to enjoy myself. You know.
Well, let me ask you this: what was and both of y'all can answer this. What was the biggest, dumbest purchase that you ever made? Like, biggest regret?
My biggest regret for purchase is probably...
Why are you thinking about it? I can answer mine.
Yeah, go ahead and answer yours.
All right, so mine was I had a 4Runner. I got done, man. I went and bought a 4Runner in cash, man. The 4Runner XL Limited. It was nice, about 45 stacks, sunroof. Picked my boys up. Hey, man, let's go get it. Let's go pick some honeys up. Let's go run the streets. You know, let's go ahead and do our thing. Hey, I got drinks for all y'all. Don't worry about it. You know, it's cool. You know, that was probably the dumbest thing I did, because the day I drove it off the lot, the guy was like, it's only going to be worth like $35,000 in about 2 weeks. I was like, what? No big deal. I'm good, right? But that was probably the dumbest thing I did. From that perspective, because it just, there was no, and then got to a place in my life where I had put a bunch of money away and I couldn't get to it, where once I got done spending, let's call it $75,000, I couldn't get to a big chunk of it until next year. So I had to figure out how I was going to work and do whatever, and then missed a couple truck payments, and I was like, man, but. Yeah, that was probably the dumbest thing I did.
My dumbest thing I probably purchased a bunch of dumb stuff. Shoes, overpriced shoes, cars. Because what I know now, like you said, I mean.
What was your first purchase?
My first big purchase. My first big purchase was a car.
The Jag?
I bought a Jaguar.
Yeah. You gave it back quick, though. You got rid of it. It didn't seem like you had it for that long.
Yeah, I had a Jag, but I had it for a few years, and then I sold it. I sold that and my pickup truck. My dumbest purchase was probably buying a Tesla.
The Tesla? For real? The Tesla? I was going to say the Tesla, the Jag. The Jag was nice, though.
Yeah, but because I sold my Jag, this is why my Tesla purchase was dumb. I had a F-150 pickup truck, and I had a Jaguar XJ. Yep. They both were paid off.
Yep.
And I sold them both to buy a Tesla. That was stupid. I should have just kept the Jag.
Yeah.
And the truck.
Should have kept them both, yeah.
I should have just kept them both.
That Tesla
but you wanted the Tesla.
I wanted that Tesla. I wanted to be that guy to drive down the street and have people say, oh shit, what is that? Like, I'd never seen that before. Like, at that moment or something, I was so infatuated with the attention of having something that nobody else had that I made a stupid decision. And I'm not the only one to have ever.
So I always talk about that people displace, what they do is they put an identity, right? An identity into something that does not give them satisfaction long-term. Right? It can't, right? So I tell people, make sure you invest money, not spend money. Okay, and you can put that on your...
That's a bar.
On your good thing. Invest money, don't spend money, right?
Go ahead.
Because if you spend money, it's gone. If you invest money, you expect what? A rate of return.
Right.
Okay, so you expect a rate of return. So now you start looking at your money differently. You say, is this an investment or is this a spend? And if you find yourself spending more than you're investing, you lose it. Simple formula.
That's a very simple formula. Yeah.
Right? A and B, right? So is this an investment or is this just a spend? Okay, got it. Okay, so you know, if you look at things like that, especially significant things, you'll start to look at it a little differently.
The thing is, like, everybody has done something though like this. And it's just crazy that you have to, I mean, it's life. It's life. That you have to live to learn. Like no matter what somebody tells you, like, hey, don't sell those 2 cars to buy this. Like, what's the point? Even though if I was smart and I know now, if I would have known then what I know now, when I bought my Tesla, I would have bought shares of Tesla in the stock market when they were super low, and I could have paid for my Tesla with just my shares.
Yep.
But I didn't know that. So the purchase wouldn't have been dumb if I had some knowledge at that time of, the stock. Because I remember a couple years later taking my Tesla to the shop, and it was just people in there buying them, boom, 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 left and right. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what's this boom? And the guy was like, he's like, people are coming in here saying that they are buying their Tesla because of the money they've made off the stock market of their shares of Tesla. And that's just knowledge that I've had to acquire and learn later. But it just depends on how you look at it. It's all a lesson, and you live and you learn. And I learned from that. So
it's a lifelong lessons, man. You learned it from the game. You're gonna be part of my memoir when I write it. I told you I'm writing. So I've been writing for about 4 years. It started with mine called When the Lights Fade. So what happens? The real transition to athletes after the lights go down, right? When the lights go down, what happens when there's no more popcorn and there's no more fans,
no more soul.
Where do you get the juice from, right? What are some of the stories of good guys, good individuals who have just been forgotten because they're no longer superstars?
Mm-hmm. So if we're gonna talk about the worst purchase, what is maybe your best? And you too. This goes for you too. What is like?
Yeah, I've got some entertainers as clients. It's the same stuff, man. The entertainers though are a little different because, they get it in chunks, right? And so they get it in chunks. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go crazy now, and it's like I'm broke for a long time, right? Yeah. So if you got the poor man mentality in the entertainment business, you can be rich for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But if not, then it comes in droves, right? So it's a little different. And you don't know how long you're going to be hot. But it's the same thing as athletes, right? You don't know when you're going to be hurt again.
Exactly.
Right?
It's synonymous. in a lot of ways.
So what's your best, or your, how should I say that? What's the best thing you've purchased or best investment you made? For me so far, I think my best investments have been my home, because my value of my home has appreciated. Mm-hmm. And I purchased some land. The land that has appreciated, has doubled in value over the last few years. So for me, I think my land went from I purchased at 79. It's worth like 170, 180 now. So like that type of purchase for me, although I've had bad ones, like I've had a few good ones. So like for you two, I asked the same question, like what maybe has been y'all's best investments or purchase at this point?
So where do the shoes come in? We got good ones, we got small. What the shoes? Good investments or bad?
Shoes add up.
They are.
You can still flip them though.
That shoes are a good investment because the resale value of the shoes is
a lot of times higher.
Yeah, you got to think this is a multi-million-dollar, even billion-dollar market that we're talking about.
See, my problem is I don't want to sell mine. I get mine to wear them. Well, to sit in my closet, really, in all actuality.
That's what I'm saying. So I would agree with you, Reggie, right? But I also would say, you have to have a way of leveraging the asset, so it is an investment, right? Because if it's just there, like how many shoes can you actually wear at one time, right? But if I can take that investment that I have in my shoes and triple that investment, is that a good investment? I would say potentially yes, right? Yeah. So it's the leverage of the asset, not the asset itself.
Right.
Right? I think it's the leverage of the asset, but okay. Kane?
So my property, let's say that the leverage.
I got nothing good. I'm looking at, we talking about good or bad purchases. I'm about to buy my first house, so that I think that will be my biggest and best. But I guess it also depends on what kind of house, where it is, if you can, if it is an investment. We'll see. I'm early in the game on that.
My best investment, which sounds cliche, probably was into my first, I'd say either my first home or into the education in the business that I'm in now. So one of the things I had to do when I made my money, Reggie, in this business was I had to try to flip it. So I saw these other guys out buying cars, whatever. I put that money in the business and tried to flip it, figure I can make 2 into 5 and 5 into 20. And so I invested it in people.
When you said that, I think about
He's thinking of the Foxy Brown.
No, Cameron, the rapper Cameron.
Yeah,
I turned 8 to 20, 20 to 100, 100 to 1,000, that to 100,000.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was looking at. I was like, okay, how do I turn my ability to make 20,000 into my ability to make 50 or 100?
Right.
So I invested in people in my business, even though that's not something you drive or whatever, but I knew if I invested in people, I would buy loyalty. And loyalty is something you can't teach people, right? So people were loyal because I was their guy. I now had inherent responsibility of making sure that they got paid, right? So I put the pressure on myself to say, hey, you got to do the things you don't even like to do half the time because you have other responsibilities outside of yourself. So that was probably my best purchase because it just keeps on paying me, right? It's just one of them situations where you invest in people and systems and processes that'll always pay you. So that was one of the first things one of my mentors told me. That's in business. He's like, invest in people, don't invest in stuff. You invest in people, you'll make a fortune. You invest in stuff, you'll have money. I was like, I was like, I like fortunes more than stuff. Got it. So
I'm trying to create that generational wealth.
Yeah. So that was one of those things. So I continue to do that because I think the only way for you to have exponential revenue and exponential capital is you have to invest in things that don't have a monetary value that you can't actually sell for the same value or even a little bit more than what you bought it at.
Okay. All right. So we getting the signal here. We got a wrap.
She cutting you off?
She cutting us, yeah. I think
cutting it off.
Yeah, I think the camera's...
Reggie let me get that jersey, boy. I'm
Let me get that.
There's still a lot of stuff we didn't get to, man, but this has been awesome, man, and definitely informative.
I'm open to part 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part 2.
There was a lot I didn't get to ask you that I got here, but
the financial full court press. I'm ready for y'all, man.
Anytime y'all want to bring me in.
Anytime y'all want to bring me in for a segment on what's happening,
full court press presented by Chris Gandy.
That's right. Y'all want to talk about what's happening in the market?
I want to talk about it all. I want to talk
about give your people 8-10 stock tips.
Yeah,
they can go get right now. They can go get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you after this.
We're gonna have to do a part 2.
Give them to me.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do part 2. I want to hear them too.
I can give you 8 to 10. I give you one right now. Your boy we bought Gilead at $70. That's the Remdesivir, the drug for COVID-19. That was the only drug the FDA has approved so far. There's three more behind.
What's this one Schrodinger that's backed by Bill Gates?
That's what I said. There's 3 more behind.
Oh, okay.
So as it comes out, you got to do. There's some research. So Bill Gates, he'll throw money at a bunch of things, but there's some things that are coming out that are in the works right now that people are losing money, and unfortunately, because of COVID-19, people have lost their jobs. But I can tell you, anytime there's somebody else's loss, there's a significant gain on the other side. So if you're positioned right, you can make some things happen. So you just got to be in the right position. And if you're in the right position, man, there's going to be so much opportunity that comes up. So Kane, I'll tell you, don't buy your house for about, let's call it 18 to 20 months.
Is that right?
I'll tell you why. Because real estate is always a lag indicator of a market tranche. Always. You go back and look at the history and when real estate dropped, right? So you figure this, watch the math. 30% of people lost their jobs. What do you think is going to happen to real estate? Right. Because you think people going to keep paying their bills when they can't go back to work?
Oh,
or when their money's been cut in half?
Are we going back to 08?
Right.
Oh, we going back to 08, bro. Yeah. Watch. You're going to be able to pick up 2 flats, 3 flats for like $50,000. I mean, you're going to be able to pick up stuff that you're like, man.
Okay.
Right. So it's a buyer. It's going to be a buyer's market in a couple of years. Probably, let's give it 12 to 18 months is the cycle normally with real estate. We already seen the real estate market shrinking because they're not doing second mortgages anymore. They literally have stopped doing second mortgages in the last 30 days. Like you was trying to get a second mortgage, and they're like, no.
Food for thought.
No. So just be ready. Be ready when they put you. Hey, here's one.
I appreciate you dropping that gem.
When they put you in the game, be ready to hoop. Be ready to play. Right.
Full court.
All right, Gandy. The producer is cutting us.
Yeah, I think that
We
still good on this. Hold on, I got to get you to answer this one last question. We ask all of our guests.
Oh,
we did. Hey,
one more
question. We asked this to all of our guests that come on. We didn't get a chance to really talk about any music today, but again, maybe part 2. But being that you were a professional basketball player, what rap artist would you say is synonymous with your style of play?
Oh, Big Daddy Kane, baby.
Big Daddy Kane.
I get the job done.
There you go.
I work,
Smooth
right? That's
operator.
what I'm saying. You ain't got to ask me twice, boy. Big Daddy Kane.
This has been episode 10 of Synonymous. And Mr. Gandy, we really appreciate you coming on our show and dropping jewels and sharing a little bit about yourself. And hopefully we can get you back for part 2. But until then, we'd like to say thanks to everybody for tuning in, and thanks, Chris, for joining us.
Yes, sir, man. Come check us out. Come to our website. Come be a part of what we're doing.
Drop the website.
What's the website? What's the company?
Midwest Legacy Group. These guys will post my information up there so you can check it out. But come check us out. Come be a part of the family. We're trying to build legacies of wealth amongst everybody in the world, man. Just teach it. Do it a little differently than how we got here. Leave the world a little better than we found it. That's what we're trying to do.
Sweet.
That's a wrap.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Reggie.